And I always felt kind of my responsibility is to form relationships in athletic departments, form relationships in professional leagues, scouting departments, so I have the most informed opinions. Now, I do 3 hours a day. Some of it's just my gut instinct or my eyes. But a lot of times, if I have my strongest opinions, I remember when Tebow was on a hot streak, and I was like, this isn't going to last. And I had somebody inside the Denver locker room saying, dude can't play. He's not an NFL. Don't listen to all the nonsense. Whether it was Darnold over Baker, it was Herbert over Tua. Through the years, I've relied on scouts, often with my strongest opinions. They get backed by people in the league. So my scouting guys, sometimes there's a problem. When I like a player way more than my scouts do, or I don't like a player as much as my scouts do, and that's for Fernando Mendoza. Like, I like Fernando Mendoza a lot. Everybody else just kind of likes him. Albert Breer came on the show yesterday, and this is kind of the universal opinion I hear about the Hoosier quarterback.
2 years ago, when Caleb Williams went first, Jaden Daniels went second, Drake May went third, Penix went eighth, McCarthy went 10th, and Nix went 12th. The consensus I've gotten is that he would have been the fourth of those quarterbacks. So right in the middle. I think most teams like the makeup. They like how much he's won. They like the accuracy. But is he physically what, say Drake May was coming out of North Carolina, or Jaden Daniels was coming out of LSU, or Caleb Williams was coming out of USC? He's not that.
Okay, when I watch him, here's what I see. Bigger, stronger, more athletic version of Matt Ryan. That's what he looks like. Well, Matt Ryan is 9th all-time in passing yards and top 10 all-time in touchdown passes, got to a Super Bowl and led 28-3, has an MVP season behind him, 15 years, 4 Pro Bowls. So add 30% to that. Because I think Mendoza is got, he's a little bigger, he moves a little better, and I think he's got a slightly stronger arm. So I think Matt Ryan, you could build a franchise around and get to Super Bowls with. In fact, I think largely the Falcons failed Matt Ryan. He didn't fail them. I mean, he was a very good quarterback.
It's genuinely fascinating how we, as a football community, approach the evaluation of young quarterback talent and the draft decisions that accompany it. Even if we take Albert Breer's reporting at face value and operate under the assumption that a certain prospect is viewed as the 4th pick in this class, there's a much broader conversation to be had about what that actually means and how we should contextualize it. Let's start with the obvious. Caleb Williams possesses the potential to become an absolute superstar in this league. If you're still debating that fundamental truth at this stage, that's entirely on you. The evidence is overwhelming. Jaden Daniels, in his rookie season, proved himself to be an absolute superstar. Now, his long-term durability and whether his body can withstand the punishment he takes is a completely separate conversation. That's a legitimate concern worth discussing. But as a rookie, he practically put up 4,000 passing yards and 900 rushing yards. If anything, he might have pushed 1,000 on the ground. His performance was unbelievable by any metric. He is also elite. We just watched Drake May emerge as a legitimate MVP candidate and lead his team to the Super Bowl. That's not hypothetical. That actually happened. So when you're looking at a class that includes those 3 quarterbacks, the standard is already incredibly high. Now, if Fernando Mendoza is positioned as the 4th quarterback in this draft class, you have to look at the broader context of recent quarterback prospects. You're looking at a J.J. McCarthy situation, a Michael Penix Jr. situation, guys who haven't fully panned out yet but still carry significant potential. And then you have Bo Nix, who led the Denver Broncos to the #1 seed in the AFC and, quite frankly, would have gotten to the Super Bowl. I don't think that's a controversial statement, especially after watching how the Super Bowl actually unfolded. And honestly, the Broncos quite possibly could have won that Super Bowl. Bo Nix has been awesome. Bo Nix has done something remarkable. Let me pull up the stat. He has 7,500 passing yards, 750 rushing yards, and a playoff win before his 3rd NFL season. He's the only quarterback in history to accomplish that specific combination of production. So, not such a bad pick when you actually look at the numbers. We get so obsessed with this idea that every draft pick, especially at the quarterback position, needs to be the most transformative, most insane selection we've ever seen. It needs to be Victor Wembanyama. It needs to be LeBron James. It needs to be Patrick Mahomes. And it's just like, guys, not all picks are like that. Not all picks can be like that. The reality is that sometimes the best case scenario for a quarterback prospect is a Russell Wilson type. Sometimes it's a Sam Darnold trajectory. You're not always going to get a franchise-defining, generationally transcendent quarterback. You're just not. You're not always going to get a Josh Allen, a Patrick Mahomes, a Michael Jordan, a LeBron James, players who literally transform how we view their entire sport, whether it's football, basketball, soccer, or anything else. Sometimes the best case scenario is that the player is just great. He's awesome. He's someone you can win with. He's someone you can grow with. He's a great leader. He puts in the work every single day. Can he put the team on his back and just win every single week? Maybe not in the Superman sense. But that's okay. I watched Sam Darnold win the Super Bowl this year. And listen, he was awesome. He was great. I enjoyed every minute of watching that run. But I'm not sitting here watching those games saying Sam Darnold is out there putting this team on his back and playing like Superman week after week after week. That's not what happened. The same thing applies to Jalen Hurts. I've made a ton of content around Jalen Hurts, praising him and defending him against criticism. But I'm not out here telling you that he's putting the Eagles on his back week after week after week either. What he did was elevate his game and step up in the biggest moments, specifically in the playoffs and the Super Bowl. And that matters immensely. That's what separates good quarterbacks from champions. Yes, I think a Lamar Jackson or a Josh Allen can carry a team more effectively than a Jalen Hurts, a Sam Darnold, or a Russell Wilson. Their individual brilliance can mask more roster deficiencies. And yet, all of those quarterbacks I just mentioned, Hurts, Darnold, Wilson, are Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. Meanwhile, the quarterbacks we consistently say can carry a team, the ones we describe as larger-than-life greatness, they're not winning Super Bowls. Joe Burrow hasn't won one. Josh Allen hasn't won one. Lamar Jackson hasn't won one. It's not happening for them yet. Matthew Stafford, who people argue is a top 10 quarterback of all time. I think he's elite. I think he's special. I don't know exactly where he ranks historically, but he is definitely, in my view, an all-time great. He won one Super Bowl, and he did nothing in Detroit. Nothing. He didn't win a single playoff game there, and only made the playoffs 3 times over more than a decade. So a lot of times, if you look at a quarterback and your evaluation is that he's just good enough, that he's solid, that he's capable, that is actually something you can immediately build around. Let me give you a reality check. You probably, if you had a better coach and a better roster and were just a little bit more innovative schematically, you probably could have done way more damage with Derek Carr. Way more damage. Did you see what Derek Carr looked like before he got injured with the Saints under Clint Kubiak? He was balling. When that team was healthy, they were balling. That offense was rolling. So we're so quick to downplay quarterbacks like Matt Ryan, Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, and I'm not saying Mendoza is even in that category yet. I think he could be better than all of them. But my point is that if that's at least the floor for a prospect, there's no problem with that. None whatsoever. Because if you build a good enough team around him and have the right coach calling plays, you will win. You will win football games. And if you think you're going to skip that solid floor in hopes of drafting the next Josh Allen, my response is, good luck with that. Seriously, good luck. And here's the other crucial point. If you don't build a good enough team around him, it doesn't matter even if you do have a Josh Allen, because you still need a good enough team and a good enough coaching staff to actually win championships. That's non-negotiable. And if you can win with a good enough coaching staff and a good enough roster without a Josh Allen, just with a good enough quarterback, well then, get the quarterback that's right in front of you. It's that simple. It's that straightforward. Then you establish the roster. You establish the coaching staff. You build the culture. And if it turns out down the line that Mendoza isn't good enough to get you over that final hump, and you find yourself in a situation where you're saying, he's just not good enough to win a championship, then no harm, no foul. You have the roster, you have the coaching staff, you've demonstrated what you're able to accomplish with that infrastructure, and then you make plans. You adjust. You see what the NFL landscape looks like in realistically 3 or 4 years. And who knows? Maybe there's a situation where the Commanders have just failed Jaden Daniels year after year, and now he becomes available. That's the kind of thing we saw with Matthew Stafford. I'm trying to think of other quarterbacks who might fit that mold, but it's hard to just make up names without people having strong feelings about them. Is there any quarterback who's like 24 right now who would be 27 or 28 in a few years, where you're looking at the situation thinking, this team has failed them? Can't think of anyone off the top of my head right now. But there are always other options. You could draft someone else. You could make a trade. There are pathways. But to me, if you're sitting there thinking, Mendoza's not good enough for us, so we're going to trade the pick. We're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to get cute with it, I think you're just overthinking it. You're outsmarting yourself. If you genuinely believe that Mendoza can be part of the conversation with quarterbacks like Drake May, Jaden Daniels, and Caleb Williams, then you draft Mendoza in a second. You draft him without hesitation. You just go, yep, we'll take him. Done deal. Look at what that group has accomplished. Jaden Daniels made the NFC Championship game and lost to the eventual Super Bowl winner. That's a tough matchup against a great team. Drake May went to the Super Bowl. Bo Nix made the AFC Championship game and balled out against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. Caleb Williams, again, has room for improvement, but he's done some pretty spectacular things and, quite frankly, should have beaten the Rams in the playoffs. That's the company we're talking about. Whereas there are plenty of other quarterbacks in this league where you look at them and think, yikes, there's no way we can get to a conference championship game with this guy. There's no way we can get to a Super Bowl. There's no way that quarterback can bail us out in a tough moment. The NFL is littered with those quarterbacks. The ones where you're saying, oh yeah, we got to move on immediately. This is bad. This is really bad. The Raiders have had those quarterbacks in the past. They've cycled through them. I guarantee you, if you built a great enough roster right now, and if Clint Kubiak proves to be as great of a coach as I think he is, if you had a prime Derek Carr right now in his prime playing for this team, yeah, you'd be balling. You'd be in an awesome situation. You'd have a good enough defense, an aggressive and physical defense. You'd have a great coach in Kubiak. You'd have a good enough offensive line, a functional run game, Brock Bowers at tight end, Jacoby Myers, all of it. Guys, what are we even talking about? You're winning 11 or 12 games year after year after year. You're competing in the AFC. You're competing as long as your defense can disrupt a Josh Allen or a Patrick Mahomes when it matters. Derek Carr has shown he can rise to the occasion in big moments. So if that's the floor for a prospect, if that's the baseline expectation, then it's a no-brainer. It's an absolute no-brainer. Especially when you combine it with the intangibles. A guy who clearly wants to put in the work. A guy who wants to be a leader. A guy who's going to bring in an awesome culture. Someone you can get behind as a franchise and as a fan base. It's like, what are we trying to do here? What are we waiting for? The conversation becomes, quite frankly, absurd to me. It really does. I have no idea how great Mendoza will ultimately become, because at the end of the day, we really don't know how truly great any of these players will end up being. Projecting quarterback success is an inexact science, but it's very clear when you look at some of the players in this class. Put it this way. If someone said to you, hey, Mendoza is going to be the next Josh Allen, the next Lamar Jackson, the next Matthew Stafford, right? Just use some of these established great players. Players who have done awesome things, won MVPs, achieved at the highest level, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes. You would say, okay, he's number one. Pick him immediately, right? If we knew that's what he could be, or if that's what we're projecting him to be, you'd say, okay, pick him and don't overthink it. And yet, here's what I'm trying to emphasize. It has been brutally difficult for even those truly all-time special talents to win rings, depending on the circumstances they're given. It is not easy. That's with truly elite generational quarterbacks. And so you're going to potentially skip on a Mendoza because you think you can do better? You're the dog that drops the bone when it sees its reflection in the water, thinking the reflection offers something better. And that's how you end up with Gardner Minshew and saying, well, maybe Gardner Minshew can work for us. Okay, I guess so. Or Aiden O'Connell. Yeah, I guess so. Good luck with that approach. I mean, the best years the Raiders have had recently were with Derek Carr. And quite frankly, there was a lot of organizational chaos surrounding that team during those years. And the response to that was, well, let's get Jimmy Garoppolo. And it's like, okay, I guess. How's that all working out? Not well. Not well at all. But those are just my thoughts on the matter, and I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about this? Should the Las Vegas Raiders officially draft Mendoza? The conversations around this are really fascinating right now. It seems to be slightly controversial. Maybe that's too strong a word, but there's definitely debate. I'm excited for some of the hate and the heat that the Raiders are going to get, and that Mendoza is going to get. It's going to be really fun to watch unfold. Honestly, it was exactly what happened specifically with Bo Nix and the Broncos. And obviously, I know Raiders and Broncos fans aren't exactly the best of friends, but it made the season really fun. It made it really, really, really fun. And I'm telling you right now, I'm expecting a Denver Broncos-like rise from the Las Vegas Raiders within a couple of years. We're going to be sitting here saying, Clint Kubiak, is this one of the best head coaching hires of the last decade? Mendoza, could you ask for a better quarterback situation? I mean, could you ask for better? And yet, people will still be saying, well, he's not this guy. He's not that guy. And it's like, are you kidding me? He had a 68% completion percentage and a passer rating of 101, and you're saying that's not good enough? I'll be making all these videos being like, what else do you want him to do? Just wait until they get more weapons. It was only year 2. I can't wait. It's going to be great. It's going to be absolutely great. Those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about this quarterback class, about Mendoza, about the Raiders' decision? Let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment that comes through, whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's use this space to generate some real discussions. Let's get into some spirited debates, some friendly fights over football opinions. But ultimately, let's remember to just have some fun with it. This is entertainment after all. And please, if you're enjoying the content and the community we're building here, do consider subscribing to the channel. We're building an amazing community, and I would absolutely love to see you be a part of it. My goal is to create something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something we're all excited to be a part of and contribute to. I think we're well on our way to accomplishing that vision. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It genuinely helps with visibility and navigating the unpredictable nature of the algorithm. Thank you so much for your time and attention. I'll see you in the next one.